Hello everyone and welcome back to the Daisy Regrowth Project. Researchers around the world are racing to find a vaccine for the coronavirus. There are 170 projects, I think, worldwide, and 31 of those have already started testing on humans. 2 of those 31 are here in the UK, up in Oxford. Our best hope is that out of all of those projects we'll find a vaccine before the end of 2020 this year. Vaccines normally take years to develop, sometimes up to 10 years. So it's good that we're racing because then we can, find that vaccine so that we can all be safe and get the world back working again, and so we can all return to normal without the fear of catching the virus or spreading it. The race isn't only on to save lives. There's a kind of race between the countries too. Everybody wants to be the first country to find it, especially amongst the superpowers like America and China and Russia. So you've got the China, they've put lots and lots of money into the projects, and they've actually found 4 vaccines that are in their final stages of testing, which is brilliant. Then you've got America, who has been calling their projects, what have they called it? Let me see. Operation Warp Speed. That sounds very fast and very futuristic, doesn't it? And then Russia have already said that they've got a vaccine, but the rest of the world say, we don't think you've done enough tests. Doesn't matter who wins, does it? As long as we get a vaccine as soon as possible, so that we are all safe. I think we must have the race in our woodland, and I was talking to other members of Daisy in the groups, and they think that it is quite like the old story of the hare and the tortoise. So the speedy hare was always bragging about how fast he was, and the other woodland creatures were a bit fed up. So the slow and steady tortoise challenged him to a race, and they set off, and the hare was so confident that he could win that he had a nap along the way. And then he woke up to find, to everybody else's delight, that the tortoise was just crossing the finishing line. So the moral of the story is that it isn't always about being the fastest, especially if you cut corners or if you're overconfident. And sometimes slow and steady may be a better way of achieving your goals. So I thought we would have a mad scientist tortoise in our vaccine race, and that's our activity today. And I thought we would do it Vincent van Gogh style, and let's have a little look at his work. So Vincent van Gogh is how we usually pronounce his name in this country. Was a wonderful artist. He was born in 1853, so a long time ago. He didn't have a very long life, but he produced around 900 paintings and about 1,000 works on paper, which we all enjoy today. He had a lovely and recognisable style of painting with swirls of brushstrokes and colour. He was considered a bit of a mad artist, but now his work is some of the most valuable art in the world. So let's have a little look. He uses really sort of short brush strokes, like dabs of paint in different colours. Usually complementary colours. That means that they're like pairs of colours that sort of really go very well together, and when they place side by side they make each other look brighter, like blue and orange and purple and yellow and red and green. They're complementary colours. And his brush strokes sort of go in the direction of the swirl or the round or whatever shape he is painting. That's beautiful work, isn't it? So let's go and make our tortoise for our race. Okay, so you will need a couple of pieces of paper, 2 pieces of paper. I'm using some cartridge paper, which is kind of a medium weight, which is really nice. Because you're painting, you'll need something like watercolour paper or a nice cartridge paper rather than just plain paper. Have a ruler, a pencil, an eraser, your tin of paints or whatever paints that you want to use. You can use felt tip pens if you wanted to as well. Some small paintbrushes, because we're going to do dabs, some water obviously, and I'm using a soup pot, the larger end to draw around. Place whatever shape you've found, your circular shape, on the side, on the left hand side of your paper, about in the middle, and then draw almost around it so that you've got a really nice curling C shape. That's going to be the tortoise's shell. So we want to join those up, those edges. So if you put your ruler against it and then move it out slightly and place a little dot in the middle, because we don't want a straight line, we want a curved line. And that will just, if you join up the edges with the dot, that will give you a slightly curved line. You don't need it to be really curved, otherwise we'd have a circle. But a slightly curved line to finish the edge of his shell. Now a line that goes along the top, this is for his collar, a line that goes slightly above and just slightly away from the shell, and then make a little line up from the edge of the shell and join those 2 lines up. Now to join up the bottom line, I'm going to take the ruler and I'm going to go slightly in past the edge of the shell. Do you see that? Slightly past the edge of the shell like that. And because, as I say, this is going to be the scientist tortoise collar. He's going to wear a shirt and tie. And I'm going to, from the edge of the top of the collar to the bottom, which is diagonal, I'm going to use the ruler and draw that line. Now there's a line in the middle of that collar that I don't want, so let's rub that out. There we go. Now for his head, you need to draw a small neck, so just inside of the collar, not in line with the collar, but inside of the collar, make a little line to the top of his neck, and then the bottom of his neck, you can have a curved line going up. Okay. And then at the top of the smaller line, make a really lovely C shape like that, coming up and around over the top of his head. And then we're going to join that up with the bottom part of his neck. That kind of gives us a tortoise-shaped head. It's give him a nice big sleepy eye, with a big great pupil and a highlight there in the middle. A nostril, just a dot, maybe an eyeball. Gives him a bit of an expression. Okay. Now, underneath the collar, I'm going to just draw a little tiny circle, and that's the knot of his tie. You won't see the rest of the tie for a minute because we're going to put his arm in. And we're only going to put one arm coming out of his shell because the other arm is the other side of him and you can't see it. So draw a line going up, reaching up kind of thing. Not too far, but... And then another one to go in line with it. And a thumb. Thumb, upside down U shape for his thumb. Thumb shape. There we go. Then to make sense, because he's going to be holding something, I want to give a little dash and then curl his hand around, and that leaves his hand empty. So a dash and then curl it around. Okay, dash and a curl. And join it up to the underarm. Okay. That's important because we want a space there for him to be able to hold his vaccine. Okay, so now for his legs. Now he is, well, he's walking or at least trying to run. Tortoises are slow. From the corner of the edge of his shell, the bottom edge, you're going to draw another kind of curling shape, a back to front C this time. It is kind of pointing upwards a little bit in the same direction of his arm really, and then draw another little line down the ankle edge like that, and then draw a line to follow that first line around. Like that, and end it about there. Let's do the bottom of his foot, a line, and then a curl, like that. Not sure if I've done that quite right. Let's have a little look at that. There, that's better. Rub that line out. So I just want his foot to be slightly away from his leg. And you can see his leg is going forwards and is bent, so he's kind of pushing forward with his foot as if he's running. Now the back leg, if you draw, let's just make it the bottom of that foot a bit straighter. If you draw a line in line with the bottom of his front foot. Let's just neaten that up. Using my rubber a lot today, but that's the beauty of pencil. Draw the ground so that you know where that foot has to go. Okay, let's do the back leg, and it's on the other side of him, but you'll see it coming out from behind the shell. Underneath the shell but towards the left hand side. Draw a little line and then another little line, slightly longer. And now to get the position, I would from the back of the shell just bring a line down, an invisible line down, and just put a little dot in line so that you know where the back of his leg comes to. And then from the smallest line, that first one you made, make a curling shape that goes towards that dot and then down towards the ground. Then follow that shape around, but end it with a nice curly foot, just like that. And that looks like he's pushing off with the back leg and running forward. So that's basically our tortoise with his arms and his legs, or one arm and two legs. And you can make whatever pattern you want on your tortoise. I'm going to leave that entirely up to you. So I'm just going to speed up the film while I decorate this. But first, let me put his tie in. We did his shirt. Now just draw a little pointed edge of a tie, and then one that's sort of flapping about a bit more, but keep it close to under his arm, otherwise it won't look like it's his tie. And you see that that is right under his arm, so it looks like it's attached to his shirt and tie. Now, as I was saying, do whatever pattern you want. I'm going to speed up the film here to finish this pattern. I'm just doing some sort of tortoise shell squares, and they get smaller and smaller as they go to the edge of the back of his shell, and then I'm ending it with a little round half circle like that. And then I'm just going to make his eye, fill in the pupil of his eye, leaving that little white dot, and doing the dot of his nostril and his eyebrow in black, and his tie in black. You don't have to do his tie in black, you can have a tie whatever colour you want, but I kind of want him to be quite official looking, and so I've coloured his tie in black. Okay, so now the second piece of drawing, you'll need your soup pot or whatever circle you were drawing around, and this time you're going to put it at the bottom of your second piece of paper, and you're going to draw around it, leaving a small gap at the top, like that. I've just drawn my circle a little bit too, I want my gap a little tiny bit bigger than that, like that. Okay, and then get your ruler, and we're going to make the neck of this scientist's bottle or test tube, the thing that they put their experiments in to heat up, or whatever they do to it to experiment on in their laboratory. Now you need two lines going up from that gap in the circle like that, nice and long because the tortoise has got to hold it. And then make two little lines outside of that, join them up, both ends, to make a tiny thin rectangle that is slightly bigger than the neck of the bottle. Rub out any lines that shouldn't be there, and strengthen any that need to be strengthened. And there we have it. We have a test tube for our tortoise to hold, and we're making it nice and big because we're going to put a wonderful pattern in, like this Van Gogh's beautiful painting of a starry night. So have a look at that, and you see I'm going to draw some swirls. Inside of my bottle, and I'm going to do some round bits like in the Starry Night, but these are going to be bubbles in my vaccine bottle. And let's have them going up the neck of the bottle. Don't forget they get smaller as they go up the neck, and then some of them popping out of the top like gases, and then I've just drawn a little line going upwards because this tortoise is in motion, and I want you to see that it's liquid in there. That's the drawing done. Now the painting. So I'm going to paint my liquid in, not the swirls yet or the bubbles, and just the background of them and where that sloshes up the neck of the bottle. Paint it I'm painting this in blue, but obviously you can do whatever you want. I'm just thinking of Vincent's Starry Starry Night for this. So that's in like a lovely blue. And just straight painting. But now I'm going to do the dabs. So inside the swells, I'm going to do the dabs, the short brush strokes. So use a small brush, and it's in the same colour as the background. And I'm going in the direction of the swirls. Okay. So as it curls round, so my brush strokes do, kind of gives it a nice movement. And now I'm going to put some darker ones in, all in the background as well as in the swirls. Little short dabs, all about the same length. It's easy to do, just press your brush down with the paint on it. And if you need to turn your paper to get it in the right direction, you do that. So that gives it a kind of bit more depth to it. And now I'm going to colour in my bubbles, and I'm going to do them like in Vincent's Starry Night. I'm going to do these in yellow and orange. Little dabs. I'm going to leave some white in the bubbles. I'm not going to paint the top of the tube. I'm going to leave that blank. And please try and leave yours blank as well, because I want it to look like glass. So when I put it with your tortoise, it's going to look like a piece of glass. And I've put yellow dabs all over, little brush strokes all over the bubbles and inside the swirls as well, because that looks really pretty. Now the darker yellow, orange actually, inside the bubbles and a little bit inside the swirls too. And now I'm going to use an even darker orange. Let's find it. There we go. And that's really nice. So I've got 3 yellow oranges and 2 blues, one dark blue and one sort of mid blue, an ultramarine. And that's the piece finished. Now grab your tortoise and your paints, and we are going to paint our tortoise. I'm going to just speed this film up very quickly, and I'm painting my tortoise legs, arms and heads in the same colour, in a lovely yellowy green, and then I'm going to put the dabs on his body, the Vincent van Gogh dabs on his shell rather than on his arms and legs, but it's up to you. Let's quickly go through this film. And now I'm using some brown around the squares. And I'll use some dark brown dabs, Van Gogh's dabs, dark brown all over the brown. And then I'm going to get a creamy beigey colour and do dabs all over with that. You can do whatever colours or design that you want on your tortoise. I'm leaving that up to you entirely, but just can you make them contrasting colours, different colours to what you've used on the test tube. As you see, I've got greens and browns on my tortoise, but I've got blues and oranges and yellows on my test tube, and the difference looks good. And I will put your test tube together with your tortoise so that he is holding it and that it is smaller. And it looks really magical when you kind of make it smaller, because all of those swirls and those dashes and things look really, really good. So please send a picture of your test tube and a picture of your tortoise to me at this address. And thank you very much for joining in. I know this one has been a long activity, but you can do it over 2 weeks if you want. And this is our second to last activity. The next one is our very last one. I look forward to seeing you then. Bye.